So I want to switch gears to the other handout for a sec. I'm not going to go nuts with this, but it's something that we really need to start thinking about so that we can think differently.
I watched this. I mean, I just went through it.
Yeah.
When I was done, this other, I don't think it was from you,
Okay.
but like the final cut in 40 frames came out. Is that yours?
It's not mine.
Okay, so
I don't know what that was.
let's finish
Yeah, this is a friend of mine that lives in New Jersey who put this together, and I just use it. So who knows what he put at the end of it and stuff. I don't know. Yeah.
it. Well, it was pretty interesting. I don't know if it's up to date, but
I don't know. You have a sheet called 20 shots here, and I just want to run through. These are 20 types of camera shots that if we were a class and you guys were actually students and we met every day, your first assignment would be make any film you want, but your film has to include all 20 of these shots. So be smart about when and how you use them. That's where I always started with intro kids. So if you teach video production at your school or broadcasting, this would be a really cool activity, and this is on Google Drive in the folder if you ever need to refer back to it. So we're going to go through these really quickly. Starting with number 1, master establishing shot. Notice how wide it is. Notice that the environment and the subject are equally as important. It's getting your bearings. I compare this to like Full House. You know the show Full House? When you see the outside of that apartment building that they lived, or that house that they lived in on that hill, that's like the establishing shot. It's wide, it gives you context. The next one is a full or wide shot. I would call this a wide shot. In a wide shot, you have not the entire environment, but enough context to understand what's going on, but you also have your subject and equal playing field. There is no like distinction that's precise between when it's wide and when it's medium. A medium shot is typically waist up or chest up. So we're just like establishing like common vocabulary right now. A medium shot typically is waist to here, maybe chest to here. And I just provided this to you if you want to take any notes. Medium close-up. This is kind of what Stephen was achieving when he cut off her head a little bit.
I'm so tall that I forget that everybody is
Yeah.
down here. So it's,
And I can imagine that what happened is you're filming and then you start watching them instead of watching your phone, right? Yeah. That happens. So this is a medium close-up. This is a close-up. And that's an extreme close-up. I mean, this is what, people in Hollywood refer to these shots as. This is just what we all call it. So like an extreme close-up, you could see the pores in someone's skin. That's how close it is. Next, we've got an extreme angle. All that means is you've taken the camera and your perspective off of its traditional horizontal axis and tilted it up or down at an extreme angle. So you're shooting up at a 45, for instance, or you're shooting down at a 60-degree angle. That's called an extreme angle. Bird's eye view is directly overhead looking downward. This isn't always a really fun assignment for students because they have to find creative ways to get these shots. So if you're in a school, how could you get a bird's eye view without risking your life? And so they have to like troubleshoot and problem solve and figure out, and also in the narrative, why would it be appropriate that I have a bird's eye view? So it gets them thinking. We've got to stop thinking of video as me shooting someone from this angle, from this distance, and that's what we do. It's got to be more interesting than that. It's got to be more creative than that. And we've got to tell a story in a cooler way than that. Doesn't mean we can't have that shot, but what if the cutaways were extreme angles? What if the cutaways were shooting directly from the floor looking up? There's so many things that we can do, and the audience can understand it. Like, you're a good storyteller. The audience will understand what you're saying. Let's experiment with cameras. Let's think differently about how we shoot. And then we've got low angle. It's important to note, I was watching a video, and he'd probably kill me if he heard me say this. I was watching a video today that some kids did at James Clemens. It's a 60-second promo for this weekend's game that's going to be on TV, on Raycom or whatever. At the end, there is the shot of Dr. Clayton, and he just says, where opportunity meets inspiration, and that's all he says. And he's standing up on top of 3 stairs in the landing of James Clemens. The students shot it from the bottom of the stairs looking up at like a 20-degree incline. Okay, that's not, I mean, girls probably understand this more than guys do, right? What's the problem there? It's just not real complimentary, yeah. I mean, maybe if you're like a heroin chic model, then you could pull that off and be confident, yeah, look at that low angle shot of me. Nobody wants a low angle shot of them. They don't. They don't want this. This right here is not what people care about or want to see, right? So your best bet, you want the people that you shoot to look good because you want them to agree to come back and do another one. And if you make them look fat or if you make them look anything, they're not going to ever want to be in your video ever again. So all you have to do, Natalia, will you stand? So if I'm filming Natalia, if I am directly on axis, I'm okay. If I go up about 5 degrees, I'm great. Give her 5 extra degrees of incline. Shoot downward so that this isn't anything. You know what I mean? It's a really important thing. You're shooting human beings and they want to look good, you know? Yeah, selfies are always from up high. That's because it's human instinct. If I were to shoot a selfie, which I haven't done in a while, but if I were to do that from this angle, I would immediately look at it and go, I don't look good. Now I look fine, and I would take a selfie. That's the angle thing.
That's why you have a selfie stick.
That's right. That's why you have a selfie stick, yeah. So this low angle, though it has a name, it says in cinematography, a low angle shot is a shot from a camera angle positioned low on the vertical axis. That is true. I just don't know that I've ever really used it on a human, you know, because it traditionally doesn't look good. Depth staging. This is something that we saw really well. There was one still photo from Stevens that really blew my mind. It was that shot where the leaves and branches were perfectly in focus, but the 2 girls were way out of focus in the background. Beautiful shot. That is essentially depth staging. You're staging things in the distance on purpose to help tell your story or to make it more appealing or something. And typically, especially if you have the right kind of camera, you can get one of them to blur out while the other stays in focus, and then you're talking. Then you got some really cool looking stuff. That's depth staging. Planar staging is something I've never heard anyone refer to. But all it is, if you're in theater, you've probably heard this phrase. All it is when you position or stage your actors or talent across this axis. So we're all standing shoulder to shoulder, and you're filming us. It's called planar staging. Pullback reveal. These are beginning to get into the motion idea of video. We've got a pullback reveal here. Let's see. Oh, this whole thing is the pullback reveal. Yeah, sorry, it's broken into 3. Essentially, let's say we're shooting a horror film and Stephen was laid across here and there's blood coming out of his head. You know? Sounds good. So let's say the camera began on the blood. The pullback reveal simply helps tell the story over time by revealing what's happening, by raising the camera away from the scene. Really useful stuff. I see this in instructional videos all the time. On Ron Berger's website, he uses this a lot. Like he'll zoom in on the math problem that's happening, and you can hear the teacher talking in the background. You don't really know the context. And he pulls back to reveal that it's one student sitting with a teacher and a coach or whatever. You know, that pullback reveal technique. It's not really a shot so much as a technique. Then we've got contract dolly. This is pretty cool. Essentially, this one is where the camera moves forward as an actor walks toward the camera at the same time, making a simple action more dramatic. That's what it says. So in the case of Natalia, to make it feel more dramatic, rather than waiting on her to approach me, I'm going to do it with her. We're going to meet like this. And that is called contract dolly. It's a contract between the camera and the actor saying we are going to meet each other and we're going to intensify this shot through the technique of moving toward one another. That's called a contract dolly. I've heard it referred to as other things too, but I don't remember what. Collapse dolly is really cool. So will you walk toward me again? This is where we're both walking and I'm backing up with her, and then she eventually overtakes me. So as she's walking past me, I slow down. If you go home and watch any TV show tonight, you will see this. It's all over movies and TV. So that's a collapsed dolly, where it's kind of like the camera tries to keep up, but the actor's on such a mission that just can't, and so then she passes. That's the idea of a collapsed dolly. The idea with all of these is to sort of activate this part of your brain where you start to think of the camera as a storytelling tool and not just a like, let's capture that thing. You know, it's a creative, hopefully it's a creative juicer.
I truly never have thought of the camera in my life.
Awesome. Let's activate that part of your brain.
I'm not sure those little things activate.
Well, you know, just start playing. You start with one. Yeah. Why would this matter?
I never thought of that.
You know, does this matter? I don't know. It depends on how far you want to take this thing. It depends on what kind of content you want to make. Go home and watch a documentary on Netflix. You would think that documentaries are less creative than Hollywood productions. They're totally not. To tell a story about reality, we have to get creative with the camera. And so, I mean, any decent documentary has really cool creative footage that was shot from complex angles, and all that was done on purpose, and it's all a play on the audience. It's all to get the audience bought into the story. Even if you're telling a story, and I'm guilty of it, I mean, I walk into a teacher's classroom and I want to film their lesson for an hour and a half. I get in there, I do my job, and I get out, and it's because I just got to get it done. But man, if I had an extra day, or if I had a day of planning prior to that, I could really map it out, and I could really make those videos entertaining, really make those videos highly watchable, you know? And it doesn't take an artist to appreciate artistic video. That's the thing. We're trying to play to the masses. The masses have been watching TV since birth. They are accustomed to being entertained by complex, interesting shots. But if we don't think of ourselves as cinematographers and actually sort of play to that side of them, then they're not going to be interested in the story we're trying to tell, because they're accustomed to the beautiful television and cinema world. And so that's kind of why this is relevant. 16, Dark Voyeur, the most awesome one. This is very simple. This is where if I'm hiding back here and I'm shooting Mr. Congo from right here, the camera is helping me tell the story that I'm not supposed to be here and I'm not supposed to be seeing this. So the idea is that Mr. Congo is in focus, but whatever this thing is, whether it's a tree limb or a desk, it's kind of out of focus. And your iPhone will do that from this extreme depth. So from here, if I focus on Mr. Congo by tapping once on my screen, it'll focus on him automatically, which will pull this desk out of focus. And that's called the Dark Voyeur. Really useful for the October project, obviously, for horror movies. People watching other people and things of that nature. Really cool.
Hey, what was point of view?
Oh, we didn't even talk about point of view. Point of view is exactly what it sounds like. It's from the point of view of an actor. So the camera could see my hands and what I'm doing, and it looks like it's seeing as my eyes would see. That's all it is, POV. That's really useful. Shadow shots, you know, that's just fun, creative stuff. Follow shots are exactly what they sound like. Two people, it's kind of what Mr. Mathis did at the very end of his video. You know what I mean? It would be a technical follow shot if he had followed them like physically, you know, but I think you stayed still and let them walk away, which was just his artistic choice or whatever. So that's a follow shot. Over the shoulder, this is every interview you've ever seen on TV. There are 3 cameras. You know, there are 3 cameras. There's one camera on Oprah and Tom Cruise, and the camera in the front can see both of them. Then there's one camera that can see Oprah's shoulder looking at Tom Cruise's face, and there's another camera over here looking over Tom Cruise's shoulder that can see Oprah's face. Over the shoulder. It helps tell the story of who's talking, and well, it just helps the pair. It helps the audience understand that there's a pair that's happening right now. That's what that's called. The 20th shot is not in the slideshow. It's what I use with my students. My students were required to build something, build some sort of mobile camera device. So one person got a bunch of PVC pipes and built this little thing that looked like a vacuum, and they mounted the camera on it, and then they could follow on the feet of people. So that kind of thing. That was the 20th shot. I don't know what I even called it on that list. Stable movement or action shot. So I wish that we could like make a movie and call it 20 shots, and you would have to fit all of these 20 shots into a created film. That's not going to happen unless you want to. But it would be really sweet when you are feeling stunted creatively. When you're feeling like, I don't know how to make this more interesting. I got a camera, I got two people talking. How does that make it, how can I make it more interesting? If you refer back to this, it'll start to get those juices flowing again, and maybe you can pick a more interesting angle. Huh? Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So you could go to that and check it out. I don't know how old it is. It's got 8,000 views, so it must be something. Mm-mm. But it's really similar. It's really similar. So it would probably apply to you.
Just to have that.
Yeah. Oh, this Slideshare?
Yeah.
What I would do is just bookmark this site on your web browser. Yeah, because it's just a web-based, like...
It's going to stay in the training.
Yeah, it's going to stay there. Yeah, it'll be there. Okay, so now, it being 5:30, here's what I was hoping we could do.
What about, like, in his video when the words were there? Have you...
The words?
learned how to-
Yeah, well, actually, let's talk about that. Mr. Mathis, did you use a theme of some sort? How did you get all the curly Q stuff? Is that just one of the titles that you found?
I think it was.
Told you need a partner. So why did you-
It was one of the themes, and I know like when it came to the titles, I just chose one of the options for the titles,
Yeah.
and then I just what I said that I placed it on top,
Above? Yeah.
and then I just double clicked it, because when you double click it, or I think you click it once, and that on the right side, it'll have the box where it says text, and you can change the text, and then you can actually move the text to different areas in the space and change the font, the size, all that kind of stuff.
Yep. The cool thing is, the next time you make a video, none of that has to be relearned. It'll all, you know what I mean? Well, you might have to remind yourself really quickly, but yeah. So like you're going to get faster and faster and faster at doing these things. Remember with text, if it's not on top of the video, you're not going to be able to see it. The text has to be on top, so it'll show on top. Any other questions before we move on?
So you said anything on top will be on top?
Mhm.
Will be- Okay.
If you put one video on top of another video, you're only going to see that top video. But if you put text on top of a video, you will see that text on top of the video. Yeah.
The audio though, so if you have video on top of video, the audios will be...
Audios are going to blend. Yeah. Audio, regardless of vertical staging of those clips, audio is always going to mix together.
You need to mute the audio online.
That's exactly right. You'd have to mute one or negotiate the levels or however you want to do it. In his case, he would have to turn the music down here and then pull the audio of the camera up a little bit. I don't know, but any other questions before we move on? Raise your hand. Oh, sorry.
If you decide to, so I use the blade to cut a few things, if you decide to use the blade to cut a clip, could you adjust the volume for that one clip
Yep.
alone? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I think I showed you last time how you can create volume anchor points. Might be worth going over that one last time. Let me show you why it matters. Here is some footage. I may not have shown you. Here is some footage. Let me get something where, okay, right here. Here's me saying, oh my God. All right. You can see the peaks and valleys of my voice, right? Right now, what Mr. Mathis is talking about doing is getting the blade, cutting here, going over here and cutting again. Now I can independently change the volume level of just that clip, right? While not affecting this one and not affecting this one. That's one thing I could do. The thing is, it's going to be abrupt. The change is going to go from regular, really loud, and then regular. You know what I mean? There's no like ramp. There's no sort of smoothness to it. So if I wanted to only make this section a little quieter, while not affecting anything else, what I would do is I would hold the Option key and I would click twice on this side and twice on this side. And that's going to give me what's called anchor points. And I don't know if I've shown you guys this or not. So let me do that. I'm going to hold Option, and I get this little diamond symbol. Click there, and click again here. And now I'm going to do Option click over here and over here. So now, if I pull this middle part down, it's going to build me a ramp automatically. Down, and then back up. This is the way you want to tell your stories with audio. Let's say you have music playing in the background and you want that music pretty loud except for when people are talking. You need to duck that audio level down of the music when people are talking and then bring it back up. This is the way to do that. You're going to Option click to create anchor points. So if I were to put my music under here, let me pull this back up. All right, so now my top audio is how it used to be. I want this music to be loud until I say, oh my God, right here. So what I'm going to do is, right there, I'm going to Option click on the music and draw anchor points. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. And then it's called ducking. I'm going to duck this music out of the way when I talk. So now here's what I'm left with. And then the music comes right back up. So that's called ducking. What you're really doing is automating the volume. That's what the process, you're automating a volume decrease. You're drawing in the volume line basically manually. People do this all the time. This is critical. When you start to get a little more refined, you really want to start doing this. Put a title on? Okay. So I'm going to click the T over there on the right. And I'm going to pick, I noticed Mr. Congo used some of the 3D titles, I think. It was one of the 3D titles that he found. So I'm going to take this guy, I'm going to pull it in, and I'm going to drop it on top of my video clip. Now, as long as this is yellow, as long as I select this title clip, up here I double click this, and now I can change what it says. And now I can play it back. And if I feel like that stayed on the screen too long, all I have to do is shorten it. Now it's going to stay on the screen a lot shorter. So that's a title.
It automatically got smaller because of the one you chose?
Because of the one I chose. Okay. That's the only reason.
All right.
Now when I click it, up here in the inspector, I've got other options. See speed out or build out? I can change that to where there's not going to build out. Or I can change the time.
That box up there, the inspector?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And you can open and close the inspector with this button. Right there. So that inspector, remember, especially with these more creative titles, like the 3D titles and stuff, there may be 100 things that you can adjust about that text. You could adjust the speed that it comes in. You could adjust the angle from which it comes. You can adjust how many times it spins. You can adjust the color. There's so many things that you can adjust about that text, but you need to do it in the inspector up there. Any other questions? Hey, Joel, will you hold up that mic you got? That is the blue Nessie. How much did that cost? 50 or 60 bucks. That is an ideal audio narration microphone. The flipped classroom producers that are at the school level, only at the secondary level, they got one of those. So the flipped classroom recipients in your secondary schools are going to have that exact microphone. I just couldn't swing that for you guys. I tried to get a lot more for you guys, but you got the base, like the bare minimum for what we could do. So that's a great microphone. It's called the Nessie, N-E-S-S-I-E. If you're looking for something to get better narration, that's going to be a really good choice for the money. The one that I brought in is 2 or 3 times more expensive than that, and I can't tell the difference in the quality. So I would get that if I had it to do over again, and I'd get 3 of them instead of 1. So it would be super cool if I could get one of those per school too, so that everybody's at least got access to one. And I'm working on that. Just money's a little scarce. Any other questions right now before we move on? Raise your hand if you are somewhat done with a video using Final Cut. So what I was hoping we could do is like each of you who are somewhat done with a video could move to a separate room, part of the room, and then others could come with you and look at the current state of your video inside Final Cut and analyze with you what decisions you made, how you put things where you put them, why, and maybe even make recommendations for making it better. So that's what I would like to go out on, if you guys are cool with that. So, you guys that made a video cool with doing that? Yeah? All right, so Ray, you want to stay where you are?
Sounds good.
All right, Steven, you want to stay where you are? Miss Joshi, you want to stay where you are? All right, who else was it? Miss Brooks, you can stay where you are. And you got Brewer back there. So if you didn't shoot that video, who shot it?
I had 4 kids.
Nice, cool. But you edited it in Final Cut?
Yeah, they the next day they came to my room and I just plugged my phone up or their phone up to my MacBook and just drug all their stuff in.
Cool. So it's worth noting, this is kind of off topic here, but if you put some music in your video that's copyright protected, which most music is, if you want to put it on your personal YouTube channel, you can. The odds are about 50-50 that YouTube will immediately identify it as copyrighted material and give you 1 out of 3 strikes on your account. This has happened. If JetsPress gets another strike in the next 7 months, the JetsPress channel gets canceled. Like, that's the seriousness of that. And then we'd have to, we'd lose all those videos, you know what I mean? So, if you want to do that with your personal YouTube channel, that's fine. If you need to use that kind of music, I'm not going to say not to. Technically, you're not supposed to. But if it's just an internal thing or something you're doing for yourself, who cares, you know? Put your music in there. If you want to send it to me or to anyone else, just upload that video to Google Drive and send the link. Don't upload it to YouTube to share it. You know what I mean? Especially if it's your school YouTube account. Just don't do it.
No.
You're going to be sorry. Yeah.
With music, isn't it 10% or 30 seconds or something? Is there, I know.
Yeah, I think it is 10% or 30 seconds, whichever comes first, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there is, you can.
That's how we did it on the morning show.
Yeah. And that,
Right, so it's just a little bit.
the problem is that the legality of the public school system using copyrighted content for student work versus the legality of using copyrighted content on YouTube are two very different things. So if you use so much as 5 seconds of Beyonce's hot new jam and you put it on and you upload it to, does she have any hot new jams? And you put that up on YouTube, YouTube is immediately going to identify that as copyrighted material and it's going to put the strike against you. But if you put it on MediaCast that doesn't have that and it's 30 seconds or less or whatever, then we're good. We're all in the confines of the law. So it's just that YouTube has that identifier. The deeper piece to YouTube is that sometimes, technically, you can get away with it. If you look back at I'm Human, we're technically breaking Madison City Schools' policy by using the entire 7-minute song in that. And it's a popular band on Universal Music or whatever. So, but YouTube allowed it because they have an agreement with Universal that says, yeah, you can use our song, especially if you're getting a lot of clicks. You know, that's good PR for us. But we're going to put a buy this now on Amazon or iTunes link on your video, and that's non-negotiable, which was fine with us. So I've got a one-time, I was absolved of that for that one time.
Talk to someone? Or
Yeah, at the time,
it's all in there, you figure it out.
At the time, I talked to the school's lawyer, the school system's lawyer,
What
Woody
about these
Sanderson.
YouTube people or whoever?
You could
How do
try.
know, their rules.
You don't know what agreements, what companies they have that agreement with. That's the thing that sucks. It's Universal Music Group. The good news is Universal Music Group owns 40% of the music in the world. So the odds are kind of good that they're going to be okay with you using that music. But if it's not part of Universal Music Group, which a lot of indie rock and stuff like that is not, then it's going to get pinged immediately. So there's no way to know, and YouTube doesn't have a list of songs that you may use.
Do they have, How do they notify you if you get a strike?
They shoot you an email and disable your video. So you'll get an email to the account that the YouTube account was started with, but then they'll also disable your video. So if the video is any good and getting any clicks, people will let you know immediately, hey, why isn't this video playing? And then when you click on it, it will say, this is one strike, you have 2 more before your account gets canceled. But then it makes you go to copyright school, which is like, has anybody ever had to do that? I've had to do it like many times. You go to copyright school, and on YouTube they walk you through this like thing, and you have to take a little quiz at the end of everything to teach you how to. Yeah, you don't want to do that, and it's like, and you can't skip any of it. You know what I mean? It sucks. But yeah, that's what they do. Yeah. So that's what will happen to you if you get a strike against you.
So you'll know.
The good news is, if you post a video, here's what I would do. I'm telling you to do something illegal, so don't do this. But I would post it, make the video private on my own account. I would wait 24 hours to see if YouTube flags it. If they haven't flagged it within 24 hours, they ain't gonna flag it. And so then you can relax a little bit. But if you do it on your school YouTube account, which we all now have because we have Google Apps for education, if you do it on your school YouTube account, even if it's private, that's going to cost you a strike on a really important account, you know? But if you want to try it on your Gmail or something to see how YouTube plays it, you can. So yeah. All right, here, let's do this. Let's break. If you want to go with Steve and see how he did his, come to him. If you want to see how Miss Joshi has done hers, I don't even know what Miss Joshi's video is. What is it?
It's just, basically it's not like, it's just pictures all put together of the students.
Okay.
What they're doing and music and.
Slideshow with music. Mr. Brewer is like a mixed media thing. It's like a slideshow with some video, and it's set to music. It's got plenty of titles on the screen. Mr. Congo is for his students. He made a thing called Imperatives in Latin, right? Or it's about imperatives in Latin. And it breaks down using titles on the screen. How do you create an imperative in Latin but with a root or something? Okay, I'm not a linguist, but so then, and he cuts away to some video of his students in the classroom. And then we've got Miss Brooks, who you've already seen, and who else raised their hand? Anybody else? Cool. So if you want to pick one of those people now, and I'm going to float around, or if anybody has any questions about their video or can't figure something out, I know I'm going to work with Joelle right now to get her mic working. So go. Break. Do it.